The coffee pot felt warm in my hands as I refilled Frank's cup for the third time this morning. "Thanks, sweetheart," he mumbled, barely looking up from his newspaper. I smiled that practice smile I'd perfected over the past 2 years, the one that said just your average small-town waitress, nothing to see here. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you. Make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you, if only they knew. "More pie, Mrs. Henderson?" I asked the elderly woman in booth 3, my voice carrying that gentle lilt I'd cultivated to match my new identity. She nodded, and I sliced another piece of apple pie, my movements careful and deliberate. These hands had once assembled explosives in under 90 seconds. Now they served coffee and pie to the good people of Cedar Falls, Montana. My name tag reads Sarah Miller, but that wasn't my real name. My real name was classified, buried so deep in government files that even I sometimes forgot it existed. For 12 years, I'd been one of the CIA's most effective assets, a ghost who could infiltrate terrorist cells, eliminate high-value targets, and disappear without a trace. Until everything went wrong in Prague. The bell above the diner door chimed, and I looked up to see 3 men entering. Something about them immediately set off every alarm bell I'd spent 2 years trying to silence. They moved with military precision, their eyes scanning the room in a way that had nothing to do with finding a good table. The bulges under their jackets weren't cell phones. "Seat yourselves anywhere," I called out, my voice betraying nothing of the adrenaline now coursing through my veins. They chose the corner booth. Tactical advantage, clear sight lines to all exits. Professional. The leader was tall, dark-haired, with the kind of scar across his left cheek that spoke of close-quarters combat. His companions flanked him naturally, one covering the front door, the other the kitchen entrance. I'd seen this formation before, in places where American blood had been spilled. I approached their table with menus and my best waitress smile. "Welcome to Mabel's Diner. Can I start you boys with some coffee?" The leader looked up at me, and I saw recognition flicker in his dark eyes. My blood turned to ice. "Sarah Miller," he said in accented English, though he pronounced it like a question. "Such a peaceful life you've built here." I kept my expression neutral, but my right hand moved instinctively toward the coffee pot, a weapon if needed. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" He smiled, showing perfect white teeth. "Not personally. But your reputation precedes you, Agent Phoenix." The code name hit me like a physical blow. Phoenix had been my operational identity, the ghost who'd haunted terrorist nightmares from Kandahar to Chechnya. No one should know that name anymore. "I think you have me confused with someone else," I said lightly, setting down the menus. "I've lived in Cedar Falls my whole life, have you?" The second man spoke now, pulling out a photograph. It showed me in tactical gear, face paint, standing over the body of a high-value target in Syria. Because our employer paid a great deal of money to track down the woman who killed his brother. The third man was already moving, positioning himself to block the kitchen exit. In the span of 30 seconds, my quiet life had shattered like glass. Frank looked up from his newspaper. "Everything all right over there, Sarah?" "Just fine, Frank," I called back, my mind racing through options. 8 civilians in the diner, including a family with 2 young children. Too many variables, too much collateral damage potential. The leader leaned back in his seat. "We're going to walk out of here together, Agent Phoenix, quietly. No one needs to get hurt." I felt the familiar coldness settling over me, the same ice that had once made me legendary in the shadow world. Phoenix was awakening from her long sleep, and if I refuse? His hand moved to his jacket. "Then these good people of Cedar Falls learn what happens when they harbor a killer." Mrs. Henderson was cutting into her pie. The Wilson family was laughing over shared milkshakes. Frank was starting the crossword puzzle. Normal people living normal lives, about to become casualties in a war they didn't even know existed. "All right," I said quietly. Let me just get my purse from the back. I turned toward the kitchen, but instead of heading for the employee area, I grabbed the coffee pot from the burner. In one fluid motion, I spun and hurled the scalding contents at the leader's face. He screamed, hands flying to his eyes, and I was already moving. The second man was reaching for his weapon when I drove my elbow into his throat. He dropped, gasping. The third man had his gun halfway out when I reached him, using his own momentum to slam his head into the window. The glass spider webbed but held. Everyone get down. I shouted to the civilians, my voice carrying command authority that cut through their shock. They dropped immediately, Frank behind the counter, the family under their table, Mrs. Henderson. Sliding into the footwell of her booth, the leader was recovering, pulling a pistol despite his burned face. I kicked a chair into his legs, sending him stumbling, then followed up with a combination that dropped him permanently. Training took over muscle memory from 1,000 hostile situations. The second man was still struggling to breathe, but he'd managed to key his radio. Target acquired. Mabel's Diner. Send backup. I relieved him of his weapons and secured his radio, but the damage was done. More would be coming. Frank, I called out, my voice steady despite the chaos. Call Sheriff Morrison. Tell him we have a federal situation and need immediate backup. Sarah, what the hell? My name isn't Sarah, I said, checking the fallen men for additional weapons and identification. And I need everyone to stay down until law enforcement arrives. The radio crackled. A voice in what sounded like Arabic confirmed what I'd feared. This was just the advance team. More were coming, and they'd be better prepared now that they knew Phoenix was awake. I moved to the window, carefully peering out at the street. 2 black SUVs were approaching fast. Professional again, they'd positioned their backup just out of sight, waiting for the all-clear signal that would never come. The diner's front windows exploded inward as automatic weapons fire erupted from the SUVs. I was already moving, tackling Mrs. Henderson to the floor as bullets shredded the booth where she'd been sitting. Back exit. I shouted to Frank, get everyone out the back. But as the family scrambled toward the kitchen, the rear door burst open. 3 more armed men entered, wearing tactical gear and carrying assault rifles. Professional soldiers, not the amateurs from the booth. We were trapped. I assessed the situation with the cold calculation that had once made me invaluable to my country. 12 hostiles total, based on the radio chatter. 8 civilians to protect. Limited weapons. I'd taken 2 pistols and a knife from the first team. No body armor, no backup, no extraction plan. Just like old times. Nobody move. The team leader shouted in accented English, "We want the woman. Give us Sarah Miller, and the rest of you live." I looked at Frank, at the terrified family, at Mrs. Henderson trembling behind the counter. These people had given me 2 years of peace, of normalcy, of something approaching a real life. I wouldn't let them pay for my past. "I'm right here," I called out, standing slowly with my hands visible. The leader smiled coldly. "Agent Phoenix, you've led us quite a chase." "The chase is over," I said, stepping into the center of the diner. "Let them go, and I'll come quietly." "No," came Frank's voice from behind the counter. "Sarah, don't." "It's not Sarah," I said softly, not taking my eyes off the gunman. "It never was." The leader gestured to his men, and they began herding the civilians toward the front of the diner. That's when I saw the explosive devices they were placing shaped charges on the support pillars. Remote detonators. They weren't planning to take prisoners. "You know," I said conversationally, "there's something you should understand about why they called me Phoenix." The leader paused. "Enlighten me." "It wasn't because I rose from ashes," I said, my voice carrying the deadly quiet that had once made terrorist leaders check under their beds. "It was because I burned everything to the ground." I dropped, pulling both pistols as I rolled behind the counter. The first shot took out the man nearest Mrs. Henderson. The second dropped the one covering the family. Return fire exploded around me, shattering coffee cups and destroying the register. But I was already moving, using the kitchen equipment for cover as I eliminated threats with surgical precision. Each shot calculated, each movement economical. Phoenix didn't waste bullets or time. The leader was shouting orders in Arabic now, his professional composure cracking as his men fell. He triggered one of the charges prematurely, bringing down part of the front wall in a shower of debris. Through the smoke and chaos, I heard sirens approaching. Sheriff Morrison's deputies, probably outgunned and unprepared for a terrorist cell, but backup nonetheless. The remaining gunmen were regrouping, preparing to execute the civilians before law enforcement arrived. I couldn't let that happen. Emerged from cover like an avenging angel, moving with lethal grace through the smoke-filled diner. The knife I'd taken from the first team found its mark in the fourth man's throat. A spinning kick sent the fifth man's weapon flying as my bullet ended his threat permanently. The leader was backing toward the destroyed front wall, using Mrs. Henderson as a human shield. One step closer and she dies. I stopped, my weapon trained on him. Let her go. Your quarrel is with me. You killed my brother in Damascus, he snarled. Hassan Halil meant nothing to you, just another target. I remembered now. Hassan Halil, arms dealer, financier of the FI. Bombing that killed 30 civilians in a marketplace. I'd eliminated him with a single shot from 800 yards. Your brother was a terrorist, I said calmly. He deserved what he got. And you deserve this. He shifted his aim from Mrs. Henderson to the explosive device on the central support beam. But Mrs. Henderson, bless her brave heart, chose that moment to elbow him in the ribs. His shot went wide, and mine didn't. The leader dropped, the detonator, skittering across the floor. I kicked it away and quickly checked the remaining charges, disarming them with skills I'd hoped never to use again. The sirens were getting closer. Sheriff Morrison's voice carried across the debris. This is Cedar Falls Sheriff's Department. Come out with your hands up. I looked around at the destruction, my peaceful life blown apart as thoroughly as the diner's front wall. Frank was helping. Mrs. Henderson to her feet, both of them staring at me with a mixture of awe and fear. The Wilson family was unhurt but traumatized, the children crying softly. Sarah? Frank's voice was uncertain, questioning. I holstered the weapons and stepped toward the door, hands raised as deputies flooded in. My name is Agent Rachel Cameron, I said clearly. CIA, currently inactive. I need you to contact Deputy Director Harrison at Langley immediately. As they cuffed me, protocol, nothing personal. I caught Frank's eye one last time. Thank you, I said simply, for 2 years of being normal. He nodded slowly. Will you be back? I looked at the shattered windows, the bullet holes in the walls, the bodies scattered across the floor where I'd served coffee just an hour ago. Sarah Miller won't be, I said. She died today. 3 hours later, I sat in Sheriff Morrison's office, uncuffed now and waiting for my CIA contact to arrive. Through the window, I could see news vans arriving. Reporters already spinning stories about the terrorist attack on small town. America. My phone buzzed, a number I hadn't seen in 2 years. Phoenix, came the familiar voice of Deputy Director Harrison. We heard about Cedar Falls. Are you intact? Physically, I replied. 12 hostiles eliminated. 0 civilian casualties. Outstanding. We have a situation developing in Moscow that requires your particular skill set. No. The silence stretched across the secure line. I'm sorry? I said no, Harrison. I'm retired. Find someone else. Phoenix, these people came for you. Your cover is blown, your location compromised. There's nowhere left to hide. I thought about Frank's worried face, Mrs. Henderson's brave spirit, the Wilson children's innocent laughter. About 2 years of peace that had reminded me what I was fighting for. Then I stopped hiding, I said. I stopped running. And I finished what they started. Phoenix, they want the ghost who haunted their nightmares? Fine, but I do it my way, on my terms. And when it's over, I find another small town, another diner, another chance at normal. I hung up the phone and walked outside, where the afternoon sun was setting over Cedar Falls. The diner was crime scene tape now, but Frank was standing across the street, waiting. Figured you might need a ride, he said simply. I smiled, my first genuine smile in 2 years. Where to? Wherever Agent Rachel Cameron needs to go, he said. Sarah Miller's welcome back anytime. As we drove toward the setting sun, I realized something important. Phoenix had risen from the ashes one more time. But this time, she was fighting not just for her country or her mission. She was fighting for the right to come home.